In every World Cup, there was a record so impressive that to this day it has never been broken. The youngest player to score a goal, the most dribbles in a single World Cup, and much more. So in this video, we're gonna look at 23 records, one for each World Cup that is still standing. Starting with the very first World Cup. And in that year, a man called Alberto Sulpici set the record as the youngest coach to ever win the title. He led Uruguay to the trophy at just 31 years old. But the records only get crazier from here. From the player with the most dribbles in a single World Cup to the worst campaign by a defending champion all the way to 2026. Now the next tournament had a different record, the most ignored World Cup ever. The tournament was hosted in Italy and had an average attendance of only 21,000 per match. In the semi-final between Germany and Czechoslovakia, there were just 15,000 spectators in the stands. Look at how empty it was in this photo. Less people than a second division match today. Now 4 years later, it was Italy's manager who broke a record, the most consecutive titles as a manager. Italy had already won the trophy once, and then went to winning again 4 years later. That made Vittorio Pozzo the only manager in history to lift the trophy twice in a row. Since then, every World Cup winning coach has failed to defend their title. Then after we saw the most ignored World Cup, 1950 was the complete opposite, setting the record for the largest attendance ever in a match. For context, the biggest stadium of the 2026 World Cup has a capacity of about 92,000 people. Now imagine it completely packed, multiply that by 2, add another 20,000 people, and you'll have the crowd that saw the 1950 final. That day, Brazil faced Uruguay in front of 200,000 people. Most fans had to stand because there simply weren't enough seats. And see this photo from the 1994 final? The crowd in 1950 was double than that. But if 1950 broke a record for how many people watched, 1954 broke one for how many goals they saw. In the quarterfinals, the host country Switzerland faced Austria, and the home team came out flying, taking a 3-0 lead. But then Austria responded by scoring 3 goals in just 3 minutes, already matching the number of goals of the 2022 final. Then still in the first half, the Austrian captain scored their 4th goal, and then the midfielder added a 5th. But just before halftime, Switzerland pulled one back, going to the second half at 5-4. If the game had ended right there, it would already rank among the highest scoring matches in history. But in the second half, Austria scored again, Switzerland answered with another goal, and then Austria put the final nail in the coffin. 7 goals for Austria and 5 for Switzerland, making it 12 goals scored. For this record to be matched, one team would have to beat another 12-0 or even have a 6-6 draw. Just imagine that. But we still have plenty of records until we reach 2026. But do you know why the coaches couldn't organize their defenses in that 7-5 game? Because they didn't have online soccer manager to train their tactics back then. Before we get to even more insane records that are coming up, I want to show you this game I'm playing right now. In online soccer manager, you become the coach of a real club from leagues all around the world. And while you're doing that, you compete against other people managing the other teams. You can even create a league with your friends. I came to Spain and signed with Real Madrid to bring them back to the top. But look, even though the squad is stacked, I still need to get this team working together. So let me fix it. Alright, here's the lineup. A 3-4-3 with Vini Jr. and Rodrigo on the wings and Arda Güler as the attacking midfielder. And for our first match against Celta de Vigo, I'm going all in, everyone attacking. But first, let's test the squad in the quick match. And somehow we're up against Uruguay's 2022 team. And a 3-1 win. But it went to extra time and Uruguay had 13 shots. I need to fix my defense. So let me open a pack to find a center back. Okay, first player, Leif Davis, Gabriel, and who's the next one? It's Frankie de Jong, from Barcelona to Real Madrid. I didn't get a defender, but check this out. I can sell 2 players I don't need, and with that money I can sign Saliba with overall 89. Now this team is basically unstoppable. On top of that, Online Soccer Manager has the special World Cup event, where you can choose a national team to manage and play through a World Cup simulation. So if you wanna check this game out for free, just click in the link in the description or scan this QR code right here. Thank you Online Soccer Manager for supporting the channel, and let's go back to the video. Now the record that was broken in the following World Cup is even more impossible to beat. The youngest player ever to score a goal. In the quarterfinals, Brazil faced Wales, and the Brazilian team couldn't break through Wales' defense. Until in the second half, Pelé controlled the ball, dribbled, and fired a shot into the corner. With that, he became the youngest player ever to find the back of the net, just 17 years and 8 months old. At that age, most players are still in youth academies. But in the next World Cup, Pelé got injured early in the tournament, so it was the player Garrincha who stole the spotlight, finishing the World Cup with 4 goals scored, which was enough to put him among the tournament's top scorers, alongside 5 other players who shared the Golden Boot with him, setting the record for the World Cup top scorer with the fewest goals ever. As a comparison, it's the same number of goals Jayvee scored in 2022. The only way to beat that record is if, in an entire World Cup, nobody scored more than 3 goals. But those goals were so low that in the very next tournament, one player scored 3 times in the final alone, breaking the record for the most goals scored in the final by a winning player. In 1966, England and Germany took the field for the grand final, and Germany struck first. Then England's number 10 stepped up and equalized with a header, his first goal of the match. Then in the second half, both teams scored again, sending the game into extra time. And that's when England's striker showed up again. He scored his second goal with the help from the referee, and before the match ended, he added another one. With that, Geoff Hurst became the only player ever to win the World Cup while scoring a hat-trick in the final. Mbappe came very close to matching that record, but finished in second place. Now here's another record that almost got broken but still stands. The only player to score in every single match all the way to the final. In 2022, Messi almost matched that record, but he failed to score in one match against Poland. Meanwhile, in 1970, Brazil opened its World Cup campaign against Czechoslovakia, and the striker Jayvee scored twice. Then he scored a winner against England and found the nets again against Romania. After that, the knockout stage began with the quarterfinals where he scored against Peru, then added another goal in the semi-final. Now there was only one game left, the final against Italy, but this was a much tougher match, until in the 71st minute, Pelé let the ball off perfectly for him.
Searching for Pelé, Jorginho! It's 2 goals in quick succession!
With that, Jorginho broke the record, and now that the World Cup has 8 matches, it's even more impossible for it to ever be beaten. Then in the next World Cup, Brazil was eliminated by the Netherlands, and it was the Dutch who set a record when they reached the final. It was the Netherlands versus Germany for the title, and when the referee blew the whistle, the Netherlands kept possession of the ball, until just 50 seconds in, Cruyff was brought down inside the penalty area. So a few seconds later, their penalty taker stepped up and buried it, making it the fastest goal ever in a World Cup final, 90 seconds. For you to have an idea, the Netherlands scored before Germany even got their first touch on the ball. Now 4 years later, the Netherlands reached the final once again, and this time they lost to Argentina, setting a record they just wanna forget, the most consecutive finals lost. In the previous World Cup, they had suffered a comeback defeat against Germany. Then in 1978 against Argentina, they conceded 2 goals in extra time, ending the match at 3-1. No team apart from them has ever lost 2 finals in a row. Just imagine the frustration. Now moving forward, we arrive in 1982. And while Pelé had previously become the youngest player to score, this World Cup had a guy who became the youngest to ever step onto the field. In the opening round of the group stage, Northern Ireland faced Yugoslavia, and in Northern Ireland's starting lineup was a player named Norman Whiteside, who took the field at just 17 years and 1 month old, surpassing Pelé's record for half a year. He was so young that he had played only 2 matches for his club before going to the World Cup. Then playing as both a forward and midfielder, he started every match in the tournament. The only thing he missed was a goal contribution. To break his record, a player would have to enter a World Cup match at less than 17 years of age. Now the next World Cup saw a player break a record that not even Messi has surpassed, the most dribbles in a single edition. In that tournament, Diego Maradona took football to another level. Right in the opening match against South Korea, he completed 7 successful dribbles. In the next game against Italy, he had another 7, and against Bulgaria, 9 dribbles. He was a nightmare for defenders, but that was just the beginning. In the round of 16 against Uruguay, he recorded 10 dribbles, and against England, he did this.
It's away from Reed, and then gets past Butcher, and past another, and Maradona goes on and scores one of the greatest goals the World Cup has ever seen.
In that goal alone, he completed 4 dribbles, finishing the match with 10 in total. Then in the semi-final against Belgium, he added another 8 dribbles, and in the final against Germany, 2 more, ending the World Cup with a total of 53 dribbles, a number that has never been surpassed by any player since. To give you an idea, Maradona is the only player ever to finish a World Cup with an average rating of 9 on SofaScore, ahead of Messi in 2022 and even Pelé in 1970. That's just crazy. Now, 4 years later, Argentina reached the final once again. but broke a record that wasn't exactly a positive one. The team that reached the final with the fewest goals scored. In their opening match, they started with a loss to Cameroon without scoring. Then they beat the Soviet Union and drew with Romania, finishing the group stage with just 3 goals scored. Then in the knockout stage, they defeated Brazil 1-0, drew 0-0 against Yugoslavia, advancing only on penalties, and in the semi-final against Italy, it was a 1-1 draw, advancing on penalties once again. So Argentina reached the final with only 5 goals in total, the same number of goals that striker Jayvee from Czechoslovakia scored individually in that tournament. And then in the final, guess what? They didn't score again, 1-0 defeat. In that World Cup, 8 countries scored more goals than Argentina. To even match this record, a team would have to reach the final having scored fewer goals than Messi scored alone in 2022, which was 7. Now the record that was set 4 years later will also never be broken. The oldest player ever to score. Back in 1994, Russia and Cameroon faced each other, and the game went into halftime 3-0 to Russia. So Cameroon's coach decided to put on the field a striker in his 40s named Roger Milla. Then in just 1 minute the ball fell to him, he battled with the defender and fired it into the corner, scoring a goal at 42 years of age. A record that's literally impossible to beat. But 4 years later, another guy made history because of his age, becoming the youngest to ever win the Best Player award. In 1998, Brazil had Ronaldo, the R9, who dominated the tournament. 1 goal and 1 assist against Morocco, 2 goals against Chile, 2 assists in the quarterfinals against Denmark, and in the semi-final against the Netherlands, he also delivered.
This semi-final, this is Rivaldo, looks for Ronaldo! Perfect start!
By that point, it had been 7 goal contributions in 6 matches. And the voting for the Best Player award happened even before the final ended. So at just 21 years old, Ronaldo was named the best player of the tournament. That's so remarkable that the average age of other World Cup Best Player winners is around 29 years old. Ronaldo won it at 21. Even so, the champion that year ended up being France. But it was because France won that they broke an embarrassing record 4 years later, the worst campaign ever by a defending champion. In 2002, France was considered the biggest favorite to win the tournament, but just days before, Zidane suffered a thigh injury, and the problem was that the entire team was built around him. So without their number 10, France was a disaster. They lost to Senegal, drew 0-0 with Uruguay, and in the final match, Zidane returned wearing a protection on his injured thigh, but even then, they lost 2-0. At that moment, the reigning world champions were eliminated with 1 draw, 2 losses, and not a single goal scored. Along with China and Saudi Arabia, France was one of only 3 teams that failed to score a goal. It's hard to imagine a defending champion having a worse campaign than that. In the end, that World Cup was won by Brazil, who won all 7 matches in a row. An incredible campaign. And that led Brazil to break a record at the next World Cup. 4 years later, Brazil arrived as one of the favorites and kicked off the tournament with a 1-0 win over Croatia, combined with their matches from the previous tournament that made 8 consecutive World Cup wins. Then came a 2-0 win over Australia, a 4-1 victory over Japan, and a 3-0 win over Ghana. With those results, Brazil set a record that no country has ever close to come: 11 consecutive wins in the World Cup. After a loss in 1998 final, the next match Brazil didn't win was in the quarterfinals of 2006. To put that into perspective, the only way to break this record would be for a team to win every match at the 2026 World Cup without going to penalties, and then also win all group stage matches of the following tournament. That's how difficult it is to take this record away from Brazil. Now 4 years later, the record wasn't about goals, but cards, cause 2010 had the final with the most yellow cards in history, literally the most violent final. In that year, Spain and the Netherlands entered the field to win their first ever World Cup title, but the Dutch decided they were going to play rough. Just 50 seconds in, Busquets suffered a kick in the knee from behind. Then the Netherlands kept committing small fouls, until in the 14th minute,
Capdevila trying in at him, was Van Persie.
Spain's captain Puyol decided he wouldn't let that slide. He went in from behind and got bucked himself. Then in the 22nd minute, Iniesta was hit with another nasty challenge from behind, and Sergio Ramos responded with a sliding tackle. And just when it seemed like things couldn't get any worse,
Then Xabi Alonso does put it through to Xavi. There'll be another free kick. There could yet be another card.
It was turning into a wrestling match. In the second half, Van Bronckhorst crashed into Sergio Ramos, and shortly afterward,
Villa's injured, so play I think is going to be stopped.
10 minutes later, Spain's Capdevila brought down a Dutch player from behind and received a yellow card. Then still in regular time, Robin was bugged for arguing with the referee. So the match went into extra time, where Heitinga grabbed Iniesta, received his second yellow card and was sent off. But it still wasn't over. Vandervelde fouled Iniesta and was bugged, Madsen picked up a yellow for arguing with the referee, Iniesta himself was bugged for taking off his shirt after scoring, and right before the end, Xavi received a yellow card for wasting time. So the match ended with a record of 14 yellow cards, the most ever in a World Cup final. As a comparison, only 3 games in World Cup history had more yellow cards than that. But if 2010 gave us the most violent final, 2014 gave us the most humiliating match.
Welcome to the World Cup semi-final of 2014.
When Miller scored the opener in the 11th minute, it seemed like just another goal, but from the 23rd minute, this match entered the history books. Klose scored, then Cruz scored, 1 minute later, Cruz scored again, and Khedira added another. In the space of just 6 minutes, Germany scored 4 goals, setting the record for the fastest 4 consecutive goals ever scored. We're talking about one record for each World Cup, but Toni Kroos also set a record for scoring the 2 fastest consecutive goals ever, finding the net twice within just 69 seconds. Then in the second half, Brazil conceded 2 more and only managed a late consolation goal, 7-1, becoming the biggest defeat ever suffered by a host nation and the biggest defeat in a World Cup semi-final, surpassing a record that had stood since 1930. This game was truly unforgettable. Now the record that will never be broken for the following World Cup, it didn't happen in the semi-final, but in the group stage. In the third round, Egypt faced Saudi Arabia, and both teams were already eliminated, so most people didn't pay much attention. But in Egypt's goal, there was a man who was defying reality. This is Essam El Hadzaoui, who had been playing for the Egyptian national team since 1996. So that day, he became the oldest player in World Cup history, stepping onto the field at 45 years old. For comparison, it would be if Brazil's keeper from 2002 still was Brazil's keeper in 2018, because they were born in the same year. He's also 3 years older than Ronaldo the R9 and 7 years older than Ronaldinho. Even then, in that match, Essam El Hadzaoui saved the penalty. He's a legend. Now, 4 years later, there was a record nobody wanted to have: the most defeats by a home country. People say 2014 Brazil was the worst team, but even with that 7-1 loss, they still made it to the semi-final. Now Qatar, that was just painful. Right in their first match against Ecuador, they conceded a goal in just 2 minutes. It was ruled out offside, but shortly after, they gave away a penalty. And that time, Ener Valencia scored the opener. To make things worse, they conceded another goal soon after, becoming the first host nation in history to lose their opening match. But it only got worse. In the next game against Senegal, they conceded 2 goals, and just when they pulled one back, Senegal scored another. To finish it off, they faced the Netherlands and lost 2-0. 3 games, 3 defeats, and the worst campaign by a host country. And finally, we arrive at 2026, the tournament that became the World Cup of records. But among all the incredible milestones achieved, one will probably never be broken: the only player to scoring the most different World Cups. Back in the day, just playing in 4 World Cups was already extremely difficult, so playing in 6, that seemed impossible. But Cristiano Ronaldo didn't just play in 6 tournaments, he scored in every single one of them. He found the net against Iran in 2006, North Korea in 2010 and Ghana in 2014. Then in 2018, he scored a hat-trick against Spain. Until in 2022, at 37 years old, he scored against Ghana once again. After that, many people thought he would retire, but he kept going, reaching yet another World Cup at the age of 41, where he did this.
Off goes Cancelo, delivering the cross! Ronaldo!
The only way his record could even be tied if Mbappe kept scoring all the way through the 2038 World Cup. So Ronaldo's record will stand for a very long time, just like all the incredible achievements we've seen in this list. So what do you think of this video? Don't forget to check out OSM, and if you enjoyed this video, I think you're gonna like this one too. Thanks for watching and bye!